Hey, what a good day.
Welcome back. How are you, Peter?
Very well.
That's
Very
good.
well. I've been reinventing my psychology.
Oh, aren't we always? Aren't we always?
For what we're thinking about these days is most change happens when you reach the edge of what no longer works, right? So it's like technically a lot of change is crisis driven, but like that Chinese word for crisis when it's written in the calligraphy, amidst the fear and the danger, there is equally opportunity and growth, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what I'm excited about with this episode is that when most people come to us as coaching clients, they're at this point. They're on that process of change, and they're looking at reshaping their identity and sort of falling away from a past life into a new one.
Yeah.
But you're right, that either comes from this point of something chaotic is happening in their life and they feel like, I can't do this anymore. Or equally, it's more of a positive step. It's like, there is something greater waiting for me and I'm just not sure how to link where I am now to what I know is coming next. So it's not always like it's a critical moment of, oh, my life is falling apart. Sometimes it's like, I just recognize that I'm wanting, I know there's more capability in me. There's more out there.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to go and grab it.
Yeah. And anyone who's stayed with us for the first 4 episodes of the podcast, or maybe 5, this will be episode 6 if I'm remembering. So anyone who stayed with us knows in the early ones we were talking about all leaders go through periods of friction. Friction is an identity shift calling. We said all leaders deal with aspects of burnout and that's part of the journey. But in this session, we're going to go deeper and put some meat on the bones beyond just how do you deal with that intensity and stress at the time. We're talking about how do you ride a wave to evolve into your next level of possibility, right?
Yeah. And that's going to be daunting.
For some, my view would be the better and more frequently you step into the unknown, the more powerful things will align for you over time and the more you'll become at ease as opposed to ill at ease or diseased in accepting that is the energetic pattern of the universe. Yeah. And I'll give you a perfect example. Yeah, like decade after decade after decade, as I grew with the business, grew the team, grew for me more and more interesting connections and quality players around me. I'd have a limiting statement. I would trot out like a parrot sometimes. I'd get an insight, some things that start to align for us. New way of operating would emerge, again driven by some challenge or upheaval. And what would happen is I'd say, now I finally got it. Now I finally got it.
Yeah.
And of course, what was really happening, we were spiraling and uplifting, but there were next levels of learning and next levels of learning. And the joy for me now is to expect it, anticipate it, and flow with it instead of grasping and clinging and trying to overcome it.
Yeah. I had the same experience when I was first in my entrepreneurial journey, where I guess equal amount of time to doing the work and building out the team and was spent on thinking that there was one big breakthrough that I just didn't understand yet. I didn't have the intelligence or the knowledge to get what that one big breakthrough that would make it all fit. And it wasn't started until probably when I met you that I realized, well, reflection is not something that happens once, and there's not just one end point here. So your just example about how you're spiraling up is great. I think I spiral up and I sometimes spiral right back down a little bit. And on the point of reflection, I realize that there's a misalignment. Oh, let's start moving in the right direction again. But there's if you've got those constant points of reflection, understanding like, okay, I have a version of who I am. That's my identity. That encompasses my values and all of that. Is there a misalignment with my actions of who I think I am, with what I'm actually doing? And is there a misinterpretation of that to the outside person? So one is an inner reflection on that. Am I doing the things that I say that I am? Am I the person that I'm wanting to become? And also, how is the greater perception of myself and my identity as well?
Yeah. So this is why you need feedback, and this is why we have so many tools of self-awareness and self-knowledge embedded in the work we do, right? And frankly, people can go to the website, access any, or not all of them, but some of them are proprietary and you need to be our client to get them, but they can access some of those beginning tools for self-knowledge and self-awareness, right? And know thyself. I think in episode 1 or 2 we quoted the Delphi Oracle, that ancient Greek wisdom, yeah? Know thyself doesn't mean I've got a bunch of echo chamber admirers in the social media world saying, oh, you're a wonderful influencer and we really track everything you do. That's not know yourself, that's cultivate an image, right? And I really want to move away from this presupposition that identity change is necessarily hard and arduous, right? So there's joy and power in people giving us praise, encouragement, and acknowledgement. But if it's just an ego-based look at me, and we're an echo chamber of self-promotion, that's not going to lead to real identity shift and change, right? That's just going to lead to a more polished version of whatever the current image is that we're putting out there. And one of the things that used to cause me, it would dishearten me that in the 1990s and the 2000s there were a lot of MBA type qualification and training modules coming out, really based on a version of image, like communication through image management, communication through brand control. I would say a far better use of time, energy and focus is communication through authenticity of identity, through vulnerability, through a willingness to say I don't know, which is where the talking head problem comes in. We say to anyone who has the time to check in and listen to our podcast and finds it resonates with them, you are the expert in your own life. Peter and Paul aren't talking head experts. We're a pair of colleagues and friends that have been through some journeys. We found tools that work. We found false prophets that peddle stuff that doesn't work. But we cherry pick and we integrate and we learn by doing. And that's the same with everything we're referencing here. The identity shift is always available. If someone thinks they'll get to their next level of potential by holding on to the same concepts and skill sets that got them to this level, my decades of experience tell me, and the clients I've worked with time and time again tell me, that's not possible. That's a short-term illusion.
Interesting that you said authenticity, and you said about the 90s, probably for me into the 2000s, it was it was very much marketing was this almost a manipulation.
Yes.
And so setting goals is almost a manipulation. And I think it too, in my early career, I found myself in the herd with everyone else. It's like everyone else is doing this one thing in the industry. And we're just sort of attached to that. And then that would be my version of success. What I think you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, is that that's very individual.
Yeah.
Like there's something within you for you to decide. And that what you come up with in that identity you're shifting into is not wrong because it's for you.
Well, why don't we unpackage traditional goal setting a little bit and then link it into identity shift goal setting, which I think is a level above. So some traditional goal setting models work on a linear assumption, right? If I know where I am at point A and I have a linear chart to get to point B and then point C and point D, I'll graph it upwards in a progressive way. The problem with that is the world is fundamentally chaotic and in a constant state of flux. And I don't mean the geopolitical madness that's floating around at the moment. That is an issue that needs to be addressed, obviously. I just mean quantum physics, the moving patterns of the universe, right? It's not linear. It's not reductionistic predictable. And yet we have the talking heads in every field claiming they can predict the future through linear reductions. I'm the leading economist and I can predict in 1, 3, 5 years what the economy pattern will be doing. No, they can't. It's too chaotic and interconnected for linear predictors. I'm the leading scientist in climate change, and I can predict what will happen to global sea levels over the next 5 to 10 years. No, they can't. They can have a range of possibilities, but the complexity of the universe is far deeper than a simple linear predictive model. So when we're working with clients, Paul, I often prefer to talk about the wheel of life. So the goal setting methodology for people that might want to reflect on this, or maybe even already doing aspects of it. If we see the future as a broad open field of possibility, uncharted terrain, and the chances of us predicting and controlling all the variables in this future unfolding domain, the uncharted world ahead of us, instead of investing all my intellect and energy to see a linear path that I can follow in a concrete sequential way, I'd say to people, develop the wheel of your life. So the bigger the circumference of your wheel and the more powerfully developed the core spokes, the greater rhythm and synergy and momentum you have to navigate all the twists and turns. So if we used it as perhaps a metaphor, charting unknown territory. So let's go back to the Wild West a couple of hundred years ago, and we'll use the US as an example. All the known things in that continent, North America, had been settled and established on the East Coast mainly. You know, places like New York and Boston. That's where the early colonial settlers arrived. And there was a beautiful phrase: "Go west, young man, and find your future," meaning the unknown territory, a couple of thousand miles across the North American plains, and maybe if you're lucky, you end up in California and you win your gold. So who are the people who successfully made that journey? The ones who built big, powerful wagon wheels and core, well-developed spokes, so that whatever the twists, the turns, the blind gullies, the quagmires, the unknown terrain, the wheel would have some rhythm and synergy, and they didn't have to keep digging themselves out of the rut every time. And so in a modern Western world, if a person's trying to build that next level of identity and expand their momentum and the wheel of their life, they can have as many spokes as they want in it, because they are the expert in their own life. But what we've found is regularly important for virtually everyone in a Western industrialised lifestyle setting and or in and out of a workplace, a spoke in your wheel that's got aspects to do with family and connection and well-being. A second spoke in your wheel that's got to do with your health, your self-nurture, your physical and emotional renewal patterns. A spoke that's got to do with your financial realities and how much time, energy and structure you're putting into the financial components. And you'll see as we lay out the 6 spokes, right? As we lay these spokes out, they're correlated. If I'm focused on, because another spoke is career or work or vocation, whatever the right word for a person is. If I'm focused and really amplifying the spoke in my life around my career, my vocation, my purpose, chances are my financial spoke's expanding as well, because they're correlated. Equally, if I'm investing well in family and relationships, chances are my social spoke is tracking pretty well, because family and social connections are often correlated as well, right? So the beauty of this is it's not I've got to linearly have a structure to know A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. No, I'm just expanding all the spokes of my life. So we've said one is, we didn't say this one. One is health.
Yeah.
Another one is family. Another one is social. Another one is
career, financial.
Career, vocation. Yep. Yeah. Another one is personal mastery and balance.
Yeah.
What would be the last one, Paul? Maybe my wheel's out of balance. That's interesting. Off the top of my head, I can't recall the last one. So there you have it.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I'm still growing into my identity.
Yeah. And so what I think you're saying in that is it's an inner reflection of self and building those spokes, and it is an external representation of sort of maybe more materialistic things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you do want to see what the full 6 spokes are crystal clear, just go to our website, www.peterdoylecoaching.com. The content's there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We also wanted to talk about energetic congruence, energetic chaos, and influence by frequency. They're big phrases, but it's something you're a good role model who stepped into that very powerfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I could summarise that concept by saying it's not the words you use, it's the frequency and vibration and presence that you bring to the situation.
Yeah. I gave a really good example to a friend the other day, actually. And if you look at, say, identity, that's just, it's the sum of the actions of who you are. Okay? And we're looking at a certain situation they're going through in life where someone's identity didn't match with their actions.
Yes.
And I said, oh, interesting that person is self-righteous. So we have a word for that, right? They've elevated themselves to a position, and because they've built that identity, say on paper, I am this, I am that, rather than focusing on the doing of those things, they'll place themselves above where they're not able to be critiqued. If you tried to critique them, they would say, oh, that's a misalignment with my structure of my identity. And then they'll say to you, maybe you're viewing this wrong. Maybe you have the problem. Now, this was in a greater relationship example that went on. So we won't go into every detail of that. But what was interesting to me was that it brought back this reflection of, it goes back to that term congruence, or eudaimonia as a Greek philosophy term, is, are you living in alignment with this?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you walking your talk? Or are you talking and then trying to catch up? And what we said in business before, it used to be a manipulation. It used to be that you put this image out there and then you tried to match it. Yeah, and so you were sort of constantly behind. And
is that like a stretch goal?
No, I would just say that it's almost like a manipulation. I would say in a meeting, you might say, someone say, oh, well, we need to improve on this. And you say, yep, exactly, we need to improve on that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to put this plan into effect. And because it's said in the meeting, they walk out of the meeting, no one then follows up on it. But because it was said in the meeting, there was this feel-good nature of that we're doing this now, right? So it might be a New Year's resolution. A New Year's resolution is to run more. Like, you have the goal, you tell the people about it, you're communicating it, but you're actually not living it yet. You actually haven't achieved anything.
Yeah, okay.
And so if you look at it, and there's some really good studies on this about the dopamine hit you just get from saying that you are this thing, that you're not yet. And so in more recent times with social media and whatnot, I think the message is like a little bit like, if you say you are, then you are. Like, we only have to show snippets of the life on social media. It is that photo album back in the day. We only choose the best parts of ourselves. We've become a little bit lost to the deeper connection, inner connection with ourselves. So when I heard about eudaimonia, which is like not just in being in congruence, not just being aligned with your actions are meeting your talk, your actions are meeting the person that you're wanting to become, it's another extended version of that, which is what's the best possible version of you. You know, if you were really thriving, if the best Peter was in the room, that thriving Peter, what would Peter look like?
Yeah.
And so for coming back to that reflection situation was, if you were looking at eudaimonia, am I in that? Am I constantly aligning myself with the best version of myself? That would be a daily practice.
Well, it is, and it's somewhat visionary, right? You've got a prototype of who I could be, recognising maybe I'm a little bit stumbled and flawed in being that all the time, and so that's aspirational and growth oriented, which we would endorse. However, you can't just do that self-reflection on your own, right? You need genuine, authentic people, peers, family, whatever, who give you concrete, specific feedback and behavioural examples of where they see the mismatch, and that they need to be doing it in a way for your consideration, not, hey, Paul, there's something wrong with you and you have to fix yourself, right?
Yeah, so if you're possibly that one that has built your identity on paper, and so you are a little bit self-righteous, how would you recognise that? I mean, my view is, how do those people recognise that they're not in alignment?
Well, were you one of them once?
To be open them.
Well, if we go back 10 years and interview a couple of you close connections,
definitely.
Was Paul a bit Peter was somewhat arrogant, younger Peter.
So right now, what would you do? What would be, I would say that if you're making promises that you're not keeping, right? If you're saying to someone, giving advice that you would never take,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
These might be examples that you're not in alignment.
Cool. That's really beautiful. So we're out of time for today's conversation, but we'll look forward to the next topic in 2 weeks. I think we're talking about, more of this. Patterns we inherit and how to break them, because there are certain people in our lives who benefit by us staying in the identity they've assigned for us. And they're quite threatened if we shift, and they do everything to downsize us and keep us in that old identity.
Even ourselves, even our ego.
So please stay with us for the next podcast. If you're enjoying this content, have a look at the website. There's resources and themes that will flesh out the basics of what we're sharing. www.peterdoylecoaching.com.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.